What up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Classic Conversations, episode 6. As always, my name is Fresh, co-host Vic. We got two special guest hosts, my boy DTonez and Jay Ward. So, just before we start, I kind of want to give DTonez the opportunity to introduce himself, kind of go over what makes him special, what makes him an authority in music. So,
well, special and authority. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to be here. Well, I'm DTonez. I'm a producer, songwriter, arranger, a student of the whole music supervision game. I'm just all over the place when it comes to music. I've been doing music all my life, and it's just I've so much range, and whether you want to talk about jazz, hip hop, rock, whatever, pretty much any subject matter with music, I'm down for it. I'm just a sponge, and like we were just saying before going on the air, I'm a music geek. So and proud of it. So, just definitely look forward to having these conversations with you guys. Thank you, appreciate 100%,
it. 100%, yeah, we definitely appreciate you coming. Definitely, matter of fact, definitely appreciate both of y'all being here, sharing these conversations with us. So kind of getting into the first topic, the first subject being that all of this conversation is going to center around music. I saw on Instagram recently, a young kid pose a question, right? And obviously the young kid is a producer of, today's music, I'll say. And he in his humble understanding, maybe not so humble, he posed this question. He said, unpopular opinion, today's producers are more talented than yesterday's producers. And kind of looking in the comment section and looking over the engagement, some people said agreed with it and thought that it was because of the rise in technology, right? Some people agreed with it because they thought that musicians or not producers now have more musicianship, and one person said that just simply because of the piano roll and Fruity Loops, and said that him being able to, arrange within the piano loop or piano roll made him more of a musician than yesterday's producers, which is obviously bullshit. Mm-hmm. But so I opened up that to the table. Like, is that true in any of your opinions? Are today's producers more talented than yesterday's producers? Obviously, we take that back to the beginnings and the birth of hip hop to now, and I open that up to kind of see what opinion you may think. Like, how do you feel about that?
I want to know what he gonna say for sure.
Waiting on the answer. Waiting on me.
What you think?
Well, for one, they are more talented at learning today's technology.
Right.
Because I can speak for you and I, Fresh. We were the same age, same generation, where we came up, in an era where we were teaching our parents how to do emails and stuff like that.
Right.
Just because we were more talented at showing them how to use Microsoft Word or something like that, doesn't mean we were smarter or better. We just adapted to the technology better.
Right.
However, as far as talented overall, I don't think that's quite the case, for more reasons than one. And when you're going back to the history of hip hop, with the producers and the DJs, think about what they had. They just had, before the whole, DJ console that we know of today, they using their mom and dad's record players, and had to set up these equalizers and all this stuff.
Right.
And had to plug up their equipment with the generator that was on the street. The producers and DJs had to be innovative, work with what they had.
Yeah, right.
If it wasn't for the innovation of those producers and those DJs, then we wouldn't have the DJ in a box in a computer,
Right.
so to speak, to emulate what those DJs and producers and whatnot had to learn for themselves.
I'm like, I mean, I'm like split down the middle. So like I was telling you, I'm 26.
Mm-hmm.
But like all my boys tell me like when they get in my car, it's like listening to K-Day or some shit like that. You feel me? Like I told Fresh when I first met him, like my favorite rapper is Sugar Free. I mean, my favorite rapper is DJ Quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, of course, you know, Sugar Free comes along with that. But like that's like my favorite shit to listen to like on a regular basis.
Which is dope. Might I add for you to have your favorite artist be, I guess I'll say in the golden era.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, and then when you speak on production, I feel like DJ Quick is one of the greatest producers of all time as well. So it's like, my thing is, it's hard to compare this time to back then just because of what was available to you, like you were talking about, the availability. And also, I don't think the work ethic is stronger though. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you sampling, first off, majority of music is sampled, so you already taking something from the past anyway. So it's hard to really say somebody is really more talented. I think it's just more, maybe I think my age group thinks a little bit more outside the box. Like we don't really care about the scrutiny, we don't really care about what people say about the music so much because we understand the concept of everybody can develop a following, and there's money everywhere. So it's not so much about the artistry, which is the negative thing about it, but the money game. I feel like we're probably a little bit more sufficient at the money game because of the technologies that are available to us in the music.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I can super understand that. The thing that kind of, as a producer, what I can understand is that yesterday's music, like Tones was saying, took more effort, right? More imagination, right? To literally come up with a whole mode of doing things, from taking a turntable and then, you know, to really the mixer that was created to, you know, jump between records was something that didn't exist prior to. That was created by, I think it was it wasn't Hurt, but it was Jam Master, Grandmaster Flash.
Well, Grandmaster Kaz.
Kaz, okay.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, one of the
Grandmasters, yeah. Actually created the first real mixer. Prior to that, he just kind of engineered one, just, you know, whatever, to be able to flip between the two, you know, and be able to catch that break. That break was the way that they could rap over the drums and so being able to have an elongated track to go out 16 bars, you know, whatever. You had to have two records and flip back between them. He created the. So you think about creating hardware for this for this new genre. This is new. Created hardware, and at that time, the two turntables was equivalent to. That was the technology of the time. That was equivalent to some of the technology of today. The MPCs, the machines, the native instruments, right? The Pro Tools, the Fruity Loops, the Reasons. Those two turntables was the technology of the times. So I just believe it's relative. I believe it's not an either or. I can't say that any one group is more talented because both groups took advantage of what they had and made the best of it. You know, and you know, sampling is just part of the genre. It'll always be a part of the genre because again, it was the only instrument we had.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have horns and stuff to record with. At that point in time, you just had records.
Mm-hmm.
So you took the drums from there. You sampled a snare, empty kick that was open enough to sample it. You sampled that. You sampled a break beat, and then you sample voices or musician, you know, parts that had music to it to create, you know, the melody for the beat. And you know that'll always be in it. So one thing I don't like about today's generation, as I do see what you're saying, is that some of them are very lazy. So they just remake something as opposed to sampling. You know, you take a sample and you kind of rebuild something on top of it. A lot of these kids now are just redoing songs like the, you know, off the top of my head, the Chris Brown record that was sampling Little. I can't think of the dude's name, but it was the dancehall record. You know, the one I was telling you about, Dancing in the Party, put it all on me.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Everything tonight. That one.
He was trying to avoid singing.
Hey, I didn't want nobody because all I could see is the comments about how bro can't. But anyhow, that wasn't what I do. I rapped and produced. I never sang. But that record, melody wise, and even the cadence where the lyrics go, was exactly the same thing as the original record. Like even to the hook, they just changed the words of the hook, a couple words from the hook. The hook is really close to the original hook. I've heard some records by Tory Lanez that were literally just a spitting image of Dante Metro and you know, the group from the dance hall days. Took that song, like really just didn't sample it. They really remade it.
Hip hop never sampled. Like,
well, that's
always been samples in hip hop. So why would it change for us?
My thing is, I just don't.
Tupac was sampling.
Yeah, that's the truth. Like Tupac took, you know, the Time record 777, or I guess it's kind of a toss up.
Was sampling Zapp and Roger and shit. You feel me? Like,
yeah. Nah, you know, it's kind of the flip on like whether they take samples and kind of create something of their own, or literally just remake a beat that was.
Well, you know what?
And to that one, what it is it's not so much just the fact that they took a song. It's like Tupac did his own record over it, whereas like Chris Brown is doing
the same shit,
just rewriting the lyrics to the kind of singing it the same way, the same hook.
No, you're right. I mean,
and that's kind of where I think it's lazy, where instead of coming up with your own record, you just really borrow 80% from the other.
But one thing I can say though is that I feel like a lot of producers and creators my age, they haven't really been around real musicianship to even say, all right, like this is what niggas was doing in the 80s and the 70s and make it crazy. You know what I mean? Like they don't even if it was going to church, like they don't know what it's like to have a nigga on the organ and the piano and the drums and the bass. Like, you know what I'm saying? They don't that doesn't register to them. Like they don't care about that. They in the studio with 8 people who's doing nothing. You feel me? Just with some Asperger's, big ass speakers, blowing their heads out. You feel me? Like they don't care about real talent, like real deep, like attention to detail. It's not about that.
I can understand that. But is it like? We
got swag though. Like we mastered that. Like we mastered swag.
Yeah, I think we for sure brought back, like, it was a big ass wave of like the high fashion and stuff like that, and like we for sure brought back that, like, just, you know what I'm saying, put your own shit together and put your shit together with your people that you rock with and your collective, and, you know, brand yourself, because we in the era we're strictly in the era of everybody's talking about their brand, whether it's a girl showing their ass on Instagram or whether it's somebody really out there selling some real product, like tangible product. Yeah, so I mean, it's just kind of like at this point, I think that if we didn't do it, then we'll kind of be stuck in like a loophole, because it's really like what Nip be preaching about, like the all money in stuff. We're really spending, like, people was buying that high fashion shit. That's all so much money being spent into a whole nother culture that doesn't even reciprocate for us. So it's kind of like, you know, when you think about it, we do trend set, like he was saying, and bring things back, maybe just because we really don't give a fuck sometimes, but that's like the good and the bad to it though, because, you know, not giving a fuck has its
well you know what, and to add to that point, it's a part of history repeating itself. Because when you look at the beginnings of hip hop, especially the early '80s, how were the rappers and those involved in hip hop dressed originally?
The Dapper Dans and stuff.
Dapper Dans, and sometimes you had like Grandmaster Flash and them, you know, dressed up like black punk rockers and stuff like that, where they just didn't care. You know, hip hop was just finding itself, and you had different identities and stuff like that evolving over time.
For sure.
But here's the thing: over time, you know, as hip hop started getting older, and the fashion was getting mature, I guess, that's when the record label started noticing, and that's when they started touching things, and that's when things, you know, oh, we want you to dress this way or that way or whatever. Now it's getting to a point where we don't need the labels.
Facts.
So because of us not needing the labels, you got these crews making their own waves. So that's why they don't care That's why I dress the way I dress, you dress the way you dress, and stuff like that. That's why you can get away with it. And that's all part of your brand and how you're marketing yourself and whatnot. So, you know, this generation is definitely a lot smarter and more talented, bringing that mentality back how it was back in old days, in the beginning.
Right.
It's just getting full circle. And eventually, hopefully not, the labels might come back and, you know, have their little say-so with fashion. Hopefully not.
Right.
If this generation is
I mean,
smart and like
if they stay away,
if they
stay away from the 360.
exactly, and that's a whole nother subject too.
Yeah, I mean, shit. End of the day, like you said, like that's really how it all started out, and it's crazy just to think about that. Like I'm just picturing pictures of like Rakim and all the like giant jewelry and stuff like that, and it's like, damn. I mean, that's what's initially coming back now. Like everybody want to make their stamp on how they're individual, which is you should though, but then it's also like you got like 70% of the music industry that just all are like copycats. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Here's my thing, bro. Why don't the old generation producers collaborate with the young niggas and show them the way, and vice versa? You feel me? Like I saw Rance go back and forth with Timbaland about Ableton. You feel me? Like that's the new technology. Do you feel me?
Rance is super, but Rance got it from No ID.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So, but like Rance, he is giving the game to the young people around him though, and it's all just going around.
I didn't witness that too.
It's like
I done been in the studio
so
when Rance thing came in and been like, oh no, play this key, woo.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's even dope because that's like the older generation of No ID telling Rance. That's one generation hop right there, and then Rance go and tell the younger generation, even to the point where he got the Sound Academy. Like
that's where the best music is going to come from, where
I
people
agree.
are just, you know, collaborating in different times. You feel me? Like people that you wouldn't even necessarily listen to, like Tyler the Creator is working with Charlie Wilson. You feel me? Like that's hard.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yes.
Why?
I mean, I think well, this is probably not spot on, but from my age group at least. Like, I guess a perfect example of that for me would be like Snoop. Like, going back, of course, messing with Charlie Wilson, but like, even with Bootsy Collins and all of them, because it's like, that was really mixing a whole different era. Like, that was really like the drug dealing, doing all type of crazy shit era, psychedelic. And it's like, to mix that with like gangster rap, like, I feel like that will more than likely have the same type of effect with a lot of artists. People were just humble on both sides.
It's the humbleness part, because really I think, like, to add what you were saying, is a lot of times this conversation happens on both sides, where the younger is like, the old dudes are washed up, we more talented, and then the older generation is like, we don't fuck with that mumble rap, we don't fuck with that trap shit, and it keeps both of the generations apart to where they don't get an opportunity or a chance to collaborate, to learn from each other, when one can teach, you know, this is how we used to do it, and add to their repertoire, add to their, you know, their bag. Whereas that's always separate, but that's nothing new either, because that's happened in hip hop every generation. Like the originals, like the LL Cool J's and the Run DMCs, when they era was switching over to the Snoop Dogg's and the, you know, and then even the next generation after that, we really 4 generations deep. Every generation, the older cats is like, that's not how we did it. That's not authentic. That's not how it's supposed to be. Right, but you know, Rakim gave way to Nas, right, and changed the flow from that like one syllable every bar to, you know, 2 or 3 syllables, and it just progressed into different styles. The older generation at first wasn't really fucking with it, but that's happened every time. I just, you know, hopefully this generation or the next one of these generation gets it right, but it really kind of depends on both sides lowering the flag and kind of saying, hey, let's collaborate. But I'm all for it. Like, as an artist and a producer, I'm super all for it. Like, I'm definitely extended, you know, my hand to many young producers to kind of pave the way, or to, because I think that's dope. Like, I think a little bit of the old school and a little bit of new is dope. Like, I think that makes for a great synergy. You know, just in my opinion, when those kind of artists do it, like when Timberland works with a younger artist, or Battle Cat works with some of the younger artists, I feel like those records are super dope, because it's like the things that I loved about yesterday were some of the elements that I like today. And I think that those projects come out better than both, better than the old school records, better than the new ones, but back by themselves. Those synergies, to me, are like masterpieces. They're like, that gets the really creative, you know.
You see it in other lanes too, though, like fashion, like you know what I'm saying. Like me, I'm more so like, you know, you can complete out. We from LA, so we wear Vans, Chucks, and shit like that. Like when I went to Chicago and went to school out there, he was just looking at me like I was crazy wearing like Vans to school and stuff like that. They like, man, you don't got no boots on, type stuff, you know what I mean? So, I mean, out here, it's kind of like keeping it. I feel like West Coast period is like known for being classic in a way, anyway. So I think just we represent that very, very well on this side of the coast. But you know, it's a lot more influences once you leave the West Coast, especially like when you hit Atlanta and shit like that. All they rap about is, you know what I'm saying, like the designer and shit like that. So that's why I go 50-50. Like, I don't think we'll ever all the way get over it until niggas really start rapping about it for real, for real.
So did you say the West Coast was classy or classic?
Classic,
okay.
yeah.
Well, definitely on that note, classic conversation, and we'll come back to you shortly.